One thing I wanted to ask you about, you have been involved with what we call homeschool co-ops, or, what I don't remember the term you used for takeaway homeschool classes, classes. Yeah. But from the perspective of a homeschool parent and a teacher and a therapist, what would be your recommendations for a parent who has a child who struggles if they want to incorporate their child into a program like that?
It's going to depend on the child. You knew I was going to say that. Yeah. But from my experience in our co-op, in our outclass group, obviously we had special needs kids. We had dyslexic kids, we had kids with Tourette's, we had autistic kids, we had Asperger's kids, we had a lot of different issues. And depending on the child, a lot of times we would recommend that the parent become a teacher assistant. Mm-hmm. And what that provided was a safety net for the child, mm-hmm. so that they could feel confident. But we would always put the parent in a class that the child was not in. We would have them volunteer in the art class, volunteer in be the lunchroom lady. I don't know, whatever they feel comfortable doing, because there are a lot of volunteer opportunities when they have when there are out classes. Mm-hmm. I had a parent who had 3 children. 2 of them did not have any kind of disability, and 1 did. We didn't really have any openings, and so she offered something. She just decided, I'm going to offer something, and she got someone to help her, and they offered a class that the kids took. It didn't matter to her if anybody took the class, if it was 1 kid or 10 kids. Obviously, it was better if it was a few, but right. It was a way for her to be on campus, mm-hmm. and make sure that her child had that safety net. But it wasn't so obvious like having someone hanging out in the back of the room would be, right?
Right, yeah.
So that was very helpful for us. Also because it would help us as the teachers to get to know the child from the parent's perspective. So rather than just seeing, I had a child with Tourette's in my Spanish class, and it was very lively. But because I was able to, consult with the mom when we were having, bad days, then I could mitigate any kind of, serious problem that might have been on its way, right?
Right.
But had she not been there to let me know, hey, he's having a bad day, we woke up bad this morning, mm-hmm. or had she not been there for me to go to, I'll put one of the children in charge and say, we're going to write words on the board. I'm going to go to the restroom real quick, mm-hmm. and I'll run out and catch his mom and say, hey, what's going on? Is there anything that I can do? Mm-hmm. And she didn't have to come into class, but just having that extra bit of helpful advice, right, is great. And your perspective is better than anybody else's on your child.
Right. Well, and then the thing that I found over time too is that as parents, we get so used to accommodating our child within our home, we don't even think of it as an accommodation anymore. And so we don't tell anybody that our child mm-hmm. needs something. And then when they go out and they associate in another group, we go, oh, that's why we forget.
Absolutely.
And so I know when we had run the respite program for the conferences for the Texas Homeschool Coalition, mm-hmm. the lady who runs that, she has a checklist to go through with parents after they answer all of her questions for intaking mm-hmm. their kids, because they just tend to skip over them and say, oh, no, that's not a problem. And then she has to ask them specifically that question, and they go, oh yeah, they need this comfort toy, they need this.
That's right. And we skip over it. But I've had parents even that have enrolled their kids and decided, I'm not going to go intentionally. I'm just not going to go because I want my child to learn to deal with these things. I want them to learn to deal with people that don't understand them. It's time. And I do respect that. I respect that they have the desire for their child to be able to interact without any kind of planned intervention. Mm-hmm. But I think if this is their first time that they are doing this on a regular basis, like going to class, it's not a bad idea, even for a few months, to just have somebody there, mom there, so that the kid knows, I can't handle this anymore. I need mom. The teachers all know if we have an issue, then, mom's in room 305. And we can go ask her what to do. And, but having that, plan together with the teachers, because the teachers, they love your kid. They want your kid to succeed, right? I loved my kids, all of them. And, I haven't taught for the last 4 years, but they're still at my house all the time. They just show up. 2 of them just walked through.
I had one send me a paper from college and say, can you edit this?
That's right. So the teachers that are in the homeschool outclass groups, they're doing it because they love your kids and they want to invest in them too. They want to know what you want from your kids. And they're their biggest fans, honestly. They all the ones that I know just really, really love the kids. But it's important for parents to communicate. Being too detached, is a problem. And sometimes, I was telling Peggy earlier that we've had to even create a disciplinary committee at our co-op because we received a lot of first-time outclass kids, and this is the first time they're without their parents, and they kind of went wild, did things that they would never have done if the parents had been around, and kind of needed to be eased into it. So imagine unleashing a 15-year-old boy for the first time on a whole bunch of little girls. We had to have some long talks with the boys, but that's okay. It's all part of life, right?
Right. And it all goes back to you had said earlier, and, you're kind of talking the same thing. It's about a plan. And, when you look at co-ops or these types of classes, make sure that the people in leadership have these plans in place, because that is going to create a safer environment for your child. It's going to have some way to fall back if something does happen and it doesn't escalate where it gets out of control, because that can happen. Right. So to have leadership that has thought out this process. And, if your child has medical issues, you need to have something in writing so that there is a procedure in place if something happens.
And my recommendation on that, your child is diabetic type 1. You need to have a procedure in every teacher's hand, not just your child's teacher. Yeah. But every teacher's hands. And have your, the equipment that your child needs, have it so that the teachers know where it is. It doesn't matter if your child knows where it is, because they're probably not going to be in a position to be able to help you much if they have a problem or anything like that as far as medical issues.
Definitely. Yeah, there's just so much to think through when you go outside your home. And like we said, you tend to just let those things go over your head because, well, you've dealt with them for so long.
Well, and I want to speak too a little bit about parents who are, really want they want their child to be treated normally, right? We all want our children to be treated normally, not to be discriminated against. And, but I think sometimes that parents not only don't want their children to be discriminated against, but they don't want them to be treated any differently. It's not the same thing. Now, having a little bit of special treatment is a kindness, right? It's a kindness when you can be considerate of another person, whether it's considerate of somebody because they have arthritis, or it's considerate of somebody because they are too short to reach the shelf, right? Okay.
All the time.
It happens. So, but putting your child in out classes when they have an issue that needs a little bit more compassion is great for your child. It helps to teach them to accept help and not be embarrassed.
Right.
It teaches the other children to be able to give compassion without feeling the need to, put down, humiliate. That's not even part of the situation in the out classes that I've been exposed to. And I've been exposed to 3 different large outclass organizations. It doesn't exist. That kind of behavior doesn't exist. And so it teaches everybody. It teaches the new kids who come in and haven't been in that situation before, and that they see these other kids treating this kid with compassion. Oh, I guess it's okay to do that. I'm going to do that. It doesn't take anything away from me to be kind to that person. It's just a great benefit to everyone. So taking your child and enrolling them without letting anybody know that there's an issue is never a good idea. At least the teachers need to know.
Yes, somebody needs to know, because it ends up coming out anyways, and it doesn't come out in a good way.
And you feel free to tell the organization, this is something that he deals with. I don't want anybody making a fuss about it. You can say that. I don't want him to receive any, quote, special treatment, but if it starts to come out, you'll know why, right?
Yeah.
And those tend to be with, trauma disorders, PTSD, anxiety, depression, and that kind of thing, as far as, what we've dealt with.